Right. So hopefully that gave you a fair bit of idea as to what the bike actually felt like on the road when I rode it. I rode it for a good 45 minutes so that I get a complete picture of how it actually feels like to ride on a slightly longerish duration than a typical test ride, which lasts for about 5 to 10 minutes. And yeah, so I think I've got a fair idea of what this bike will actually feel like in day-to-day usage. With that, let's get into a bit of discussion on the various aspects of how I grade this bike. And primarily, the grading system is going to be like this: A means top notch, B means sort of middle of the road, and C means not so good. And even within A, I have a bit of differentiator. So certain places you will see me give it an A plus, and in certain places an A minus, and in certain places a B minus, and so on. So let's get into this. If we start with the acceleration, I have given it an A. So very good acceleration, very quick response to the throttle input. But I have felt that Dukes are probably a bit more peppier than this, because that's what the Duke engines are actually tuned for. Whereas the Honda actually tries to sort of achieve a middle ground between how peppy the engine is, the throttle input versus the response that you get, versus still keeping things a bit more unhurried in that sense. So acceleration is an A. In terms of add-ons, I would say it's a B, because not a lot of add-ons at good price at this point of time. Add-ons such as crash guards, for example, headlight protection, or a place to put your aux lights, luggage carrier rack. Although I know that Zana has one. I know that even Zana makes crash guards, but I think they have not stopped production because this bike wasn't in the market for about a year or so. But all of that should be back in the market soon. It's a B in terms of add-ons. Braking, it's an A plus. I did a brake test, as you saw probably in the video. It's actually gold class braking, which is what is expected from a performance bike of this category. And also Nissan brakes, so no surprises there. Clutch, clutch is again a new addition, gold class clutch. You can literally operate it with your ring finger or your little finger. I literally did it, but unfortunately my GoPro didn't capture that part of the video. A plus for the clutch. Cruising is an A. I would categorize it as an A. Good cruise speeds on the highway. You'd have seen plenty of videos of people doing 130, 140. 100 should be a piece of cake for this bike. So A for cruising. Colors, I would give it a B, because in the Indian market, they have left out the satin blue color and the yellow color, which are there in the international markets. I would have personally loved the blue color, because that gives me a bit of a subdued color, because black could probably be a bit too bland, red could be a bit too flashy. Blue would have been the perfect middle ground. I would have personally preferred the blue. So because all the four colors are not there in the Indian market, it's a B for colors. What's the differentiator of this bike? I give it an A. Not a lot of bikes in this category. KTMs are a bit ubiquitous, you see them everywhere. And the MT-15, the Yamaha MT-15, it can be a bit polarizing what you tend to think about this bike. Personally, this whole robotic transformer-esque look which it has on the front, it's really not for me. I feel the round headlight of the Honda CB300R, that's more to my liking. So differentiator is an A. Exhaust note I would say is an A minus, and the reason for that is it sounds a bit Duke-ish. Typically when you hear a Duke next to you in traffic, that's almost what this exhaust note sounds like. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, that's on the exhaust note. And also I would have loved an underbelly exhaust rather than the big but tastefully done pipe exhaust, the can exhaust this time, but I would have really loved an underbelly exhaust. So that's on the exhaust note, A minus. Electronics is a standard A, so nothing much there. Engine heat is an A plus, because I literally felt no engine heat in my 45 minutes of riding. That's stuff of legend. Fuel economy is an A, so roughly about 33 to 35 is what you should expect kilometers per liter. Gearing and torque. Now, this is what left me. If you ask me what was the number one highlight of the ride today, it is this, the gearing and the torque. Amazing gearing. This is what a city gearing should be. It was doing speeds of from about 22 or 23 kilometers per hour. It was managing in the third gear, and for the CB350, most of the time that's either a second gear or a first gear scenario, and fourth gear it was doing 35, 34. That's what I'd like in a city, not a lot of gear changes. You can easily manage in the gear you are in. That's exactly what is expected. So gold class gearing, A plus. Height of the seat, A, standard height, neither too low nor too high. Handlebar comfort, A. I quite like the handlebar comfort, although it's a bit of a lean forward position. Quite comfortable handlebar. Horn, horn is a B minus because I found it very weak and tinny. Probably even weaker than an Activa, if you can believe it. Quite disappointing in the horn section. Instrument cluster, very good instrument cluster. A lot of information in such a small package. Literally such a small package. But in direct sunlight, which is when I actually rode it today at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, it's a bit of an effort to get a reading on some of the digits there. Probably a positive display, positive conventional LCD display would have been better, but that would have taken away from the streamlined look which the all black look gives you. So overall an A for instrument cluster. Indicators, A. From me it's an A. Good looking indicators, and especially the indicator signature, it's quite like the Africa Twin and even the NC750X. So expensive Honda bike is what the indicators say, the way they are actually laid out in front of you. Very nice looking indicators. Key, the way the key feels, standard key, feels substantial, looks very high quality and very well done. So that's an A. Lights are untested. I have not been able to test the lights, but from what I hear, the range of reactions vary between somebody saying that the lights are adequate versus somebody saying the lights are not good. So it's completely perspectival. It all depends on what you think about it. But I haven't had a chance to test the lights today, being a day test ride. Luggage carry. This is a B minus according to me. Quite a few reasons. It's a plastic covering on the tank, so no magnetic tank bag obviously. Smaller tank means even if you have a strap tank bag, you will not be able to go for the really big size tank bags. Probably smallerish tank bags is what you're looking at. There are no saddle stays, although you can put some saddle stays fabricating from somewhere, but the real footprint of the bike itself doesn't allow too much of luggage. Rear rack, again, I know Zana makes one, but it doesn't really go with the footprint of the bike if you ask me. Only Kriega like luggage is possible. These tie down luggages which you can comfortably put on the back seat and strap them up, those kind of luggage options are possible. So B minus on the luggage carry. Mirrors perfectly adequate, can see a lot of real estate behind you, so that's an A. And off-road, obviously this bike is not made for off-road, so that's a C. That's a C. However, in the general sense, you can handle any sort of decent off-roads. I'm sure all of us do. Even in our Activas, we do handle off-roads. And if you look at YouTube, there are Spiti and water crossing and such sort of Ladakh sort of videos which people have done on this bike. But in all fairness, people have done those terrains even on Activas, Dios, and XL50s even. So make of it what you want to. Price is a B from me. Unfortunately, it's quite a pricey bike. I think 3.43 lakhs on road Bangalore, just the basic bike with no accessories. So quite pricey for what it is. 2.5 lakhs on road Bangalore would have been the sweet spot. Surprisingly, even after this bike is actually manufactured in India, even after getting the India manufacture subsidy and all the benefits, the price has actually gotten even more pricier than before. Although there are a few new features which they've added, so something about the pricing just doesn't add up in my head. That's a B. Pillion comfort is a C. This bike is ideally not a pillion friendly bike. Sure, there is a rear seat. Sure, you could take your friend or your wife or somebody for short distances on the pillion, but it's not really a pillion friendly bike. a higher pillion, so quite a bit of an effort to lift the leg and sit on the pillion. No real handlebar, no real grab rails for somebody to grab on, no real backrest or for any sort of a grab apparatus to rest your, to sort of use as a support for your tailbone so that you don't slide backwards. None of that. It's a flat profile back seat, so it's a C, the pillion comfort. Quality, fit and finish overall A plus, no doubts there. Switches, all the switches on the bike, uh, top notch, but I would still give this a B, only because of the Honda inverted switch between the horn and the uh, indicators, and also there is no hazard light in this bike. That's why it's a B, although it's not something necessarily to do with switches, but yeah, no hazard light. Seat, how is the seat? I would give it an A. Wide, wide, not too soft, not too hard, exactly how it should be. That's how I found the seats. Seating position and ergonomics, that's an A minus, and that's only because it's a slight lean, but it's not a bad thing. It's not really a bad thing. It's nearly not as bad as I thought it would be. So that's an A minus. Service network is a B, because Big Wing is in limited cities even now, although it's quite growing fast even in the smaller towns and tier 2 towns, but still in terms of a concept, Big Wing is quite limited. But it's not really probably such a bad thing, because this is mostly a city bike and Big Wing is there obviously in whichever city you bought your bike from. So it's a B, but it's a bit of a loaded B. Stand is an A minus, and that's only because when I was engaging the kickstand, I had to hunt around a little bit as to where the stand lever actually is, which surprised me a little bit. So that's, in my personal opinion, it's a A minus. And also there is no center stand, not that you would expect it on a bike like this, but there's no center stand, so A minus. Suspension, I found it perfectly adequate, nothing notable there, either positive or negative. It's an A. No Showa suspension, however, it is some sort of a no-name suspension. Size and footprint of the bike. Now this should make for an amazing discussion, right? The overall size and the footprint of the bike. It's quite a compact bike. It's a street fighter. It's a naked street fighter. Everybody knows that. It could be good or bad depending on where you are, where you are approaching it from. Now, in terms of parking this bike somewhere where you go for shopping, for groceries, or you park this bike in a cluster of multiple two-wheelers parked somewhere in a parking, there the footprint of this bike is actually quite a good thing, because it sinks quite easily into all those multiple bikes and you can pull it out easily and just ride away. That's one thing. Even if you park this bike in your compound of the house where you live or in the basement of your building, you can easily sink this bike into any little bit of a corner. It won't take as much size as your Royal Enfield will, or your Himalayan will, or any of the bigger bikes will. Yeah, something like that. So in terms of those situations, the size actually is a huge advantage. But here is where I think the size will be a bit of a disadvantage. And this is a bit of a funny one, because if you talk about something called as a road presence, or the kind of perception or respect you get on the road, this bike is not going to get it, because if you imagine the bigger bikes like a Royal Enfield or the CB350, those are substantial looking bikes. The way people around you perceive you and the way people around you give you way when you honk at them from behind, or the way people don't tend to cut you off in those bigger bikes, it probably won't happen with this bike, because this is a smaller bike and it's just the physical perception of size which people have. You will probably not be treated with a whole lot of differentiated, sort of a perception on the road. Make of that whatever you want to. So size and road respect could be a bit questionable when you're on the road. What's next? What next? Tires are MRF. Previously it used to be, I think, Michelin. So I don't think MRF is necessarily a downgrade, but we could have probably still had Michelins on this. But with all the new tire import regulations, that would have probably made the bike even more pricier than what it is. So tires is a B. Target audience, who's this bike for? I would put that as a B, and here is why. It's mostly targeted at urban users, sort of this younger demographic in one sense, or it's for really passionate riders. It's not for everybody. So don't so this bike, you will never see a generic motorcycle user buying this. uh, it's mostly a very niche sort of a product positioning in terms of target audience. So that's why it's a B. Under the seat, you would have seen in the video, you can keep small bits and bobs under the seat, a bit handy to have rather than not have anything. So that's an A. Usability is a B because it's primarily city and urban. You will never really use it, see anybody in rural places using this bike or even off-road. So it's primarily city and urban sort of a usage scenario. So that's a B. Vibrations, absolutely nothing that I could experience. Gold class, so that's an A. Wind blast is a B purely because it's a naked street fighter. That's how they are. It's a B. Although it's unfair to give it a B because the design itself is like that, but we'll go with a B. Weight, overall weight of the bike, A plus. Amazing flickable weight, and you can literally play with the bike. Um, you will never probably encounter a situation where because of the weight of the bike you would have to drop the bike. None of that. So quite a lightweight bike. I think 146 kilos or something is the wet weight with the full tank of fuel. That's quite something. Also, when you're parked in a city somewhere among multiple other bikes, the effort which it takes to sort of push your bike out of the parking back to the road to ride away, that's one of the key tests. That test this bike will pass like a breeze. And trust me, that's a very big thing because quite a number of times I struggle with especially my Himalayan, and when I used to own my standard 500, just backing the bike out of a parking, and god forbid if the parking is a bit on a downward incline, god forbid, there are times when I own the standard 500 where I've actually had to request some passerby to give me a bit of pull on the bike to get it back on the road. So from all that perspective, from all the urban usage perspective, it's A plus. The overall weight of the bike is an A plus. Finally, let's come to the X factor of this bike. What's the X factor of this bike? I would put this as an A plus because it has got unique looks. Honda reliability, that's another X factor, and the overall footprint of the bike, although it's a bit of a loaded discussion as we just did. But for these factors, the X factor I would say is an A plus, and beautiful looking bike. It will never get old. So overall, that's where the grading of the whole motorcycle sits, in my opinion. I hope it's been of some value to all of you. Now, where do I stand currently in terms of this bike? So let me answer that in two ways. If I was in the market today, given what I know about the CB350 Highness, given that I owned it for more than a year at this point, 1 year 3 months is exactly the amount of time I owned it in, and given what I know about this bike in the short test ride, if I had to select between the two, I would have probably gone for the CB300R. No questions asked. CB300, CB350 is also a great bike, probably a better all-rounder than this in a general sense, but I would have probably gone for this only because of number one, the gearing. I like the gearing on this bike so much, so much. But given that I already own the CB350, does this bike have enough of a differentiator in order to pull me away from the CB350 and make me buy this? Now, this is the question to answer. And the correct answer is I'm not really sure, because I like this bike so much because of all the advantages which I called out. I am not really sure. The CB350 is a better all-rounder, greater family-friendly bike, greater luggage capacity bike, can do tours on it, can do everything. But the sheer fun factor is higher on the CB300R. Although it has got a few things which the CB350 doesn't, the fun factor with a capital F is higher on the CB300R. And going to be an interesting thought process what I'll actually end up doing. So that's my conclusion. So I hope this discussion and the ride impressions has been of some value to you, the person watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and see you back soon on another video. Take care and stay safe out there. Bye.